Well, the Mets win 2 out of 3 in Atlanta over the Braves this weekend. And the first thing I want to talk about is the pitching. Because right now, the Mets have what looks to be a functional pitching staff for the first time in months. This series, they got 19 innings pitched out of their starters, which is huge. They were averaging, I think, like 4.4 and a third or 4 and 2/3 innings of their starters this entire season. And in this series, you had McLean go 7, gave up 2 runs, 7 strikeouts, 4 hits, no walks. That's huge. The Mets' problem all year has been walking and putting guys on base. McLean was able to limit that, and really he looked dominant in this game. And honestly, I'm getting pretty excited for Nolan McLean. I think he has the stuff to stick around and become a really good major league pitcher. Now, obviously, there's going to be bumps in the road. He's a young guy. He's only had 2 career starts. I'm not, rolling out the red carpet and saying he's a Hall of Famer right now. That's not what this is, but he looks like he has the stuff to compete at the major league level, and he's going to stick around. So I'm really happy about what we've seen out of McLean in his first 2 starts. And then I'm probably even more excited to see Clay Holmes go 6 1/3 innings in Game 2 of this series. Clay Holmes has struggled to get through 4 innings since June, basically. He's not going deep into games. And in this game, he went 6 1/3, gave up 3 hits, only 2 walks. Huge for Clay Holmes there. We all know that Clay Holmes gets into trouble when he starts walking guys, putting guys on base. That's what drives up his pitch count and gets him out of the game early on. But he was able to limit the walks in this game. 4 strikeouts, 2 runs. He looked more like the Clay Holmes we saw in spring training and then in the beginning part of the season. And I even noticed his fastball was a little bit slower. Like, he was only really hitting 93, maybe 94, where normally he's up 95, 96 even. Maybe that was on purpose because his pitches had a lot more movement on them, it seemed to me. So maybe that's on purpose. Maybe he's got a bit of a dead arm, I don't know. But maybe it's making his pitches move more and he's starting to become more of a swing and miss guy, because that's kind of what he was on Saturday. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with Clay Holmes, but it was impressive to see him go 6 1/3 after basically averaging 3 2/3 or 4 innings pitched for the entire season. So really good job there. And then in Game 3, David Peterson, who's been your workhorse, he's been your guy that's going deep into games, giving you 6, 7 innings pitched every single game. He gave you 5 2/3, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts, 5 hits, 4 walks. Peterson's another guy who, if he starts to run into trouble when he's walking guys, and sometimes he loses his own. Listen, Peterson isn't a dominant guy. He throws 92, 93 miles an hour. He's not a dominant guy where he's going to overpower you. So he has to hit his spots and hit the corner. And you expect some more walks out of a guy like Peterson because he doesn't have that dominant stuff. He's pitching. He's not throwing. He's pitching. So he needs to make sure he's hitting his spots. And if he's missing by a little bit or he's not getting the calls, he's going to walk guys. That's how it's always been for him. That's how it's always going to be for him. Because he's just looking to get soft contact. He's looking to get you to swing at something that's just out of the zone, so you bury it in the dirt, and it's a double play. That's what he wants to do. And if you're not swinging, or he's not getting those close calls, he's going to walk guys, and he's not going to go as deep into games. So overall, really good stuff out of the starters. Now on the bullpen was okay, right? So you had some really good performances out of the bullpen. Guys like Raley, only 1 inning pitch, but no earned runs. Even Brazoban getting a big out. Soto had 1 good, 1 bad outing. Taylor Rogers gave you an inning of no earned runs. Diaz gave you an inning of nothing, no earned runs. But where they really struggled was Garrett and Helsley. These 2 guys have been a problem for a while now. Obviously, Helsley, since he's come to the Mets, I think he's got like a 9.5 ERA, almost a 10 ERA in 7 innings pitched. So he's given up 8 runs in 7 1/3. So he's been really bad since coming over. I think his season ERA now is up to like 4.5. This isn't the guy the Mets thought they were getting when they got Helsley. And if he continues to be this guy, the Mets have some issues in their bullpen. Because you also have a guy in Reed Garrett who's struggling. He gave up 2 earned runs in his 1 inning in this series. And over his last 30 games, he has like a 5.5, or actually I think it's a 6 ERA over the last 30 games. So this is not the Reed Garrett that we saw early in the season who was dominating. I think until June he had an ERA under 1. Reed Garrett was their best reliever for a long time this year, and he's probably a little overworked. He's just not, he doesn't have that crispness, that sharpness that he had early in the season. It's obviously overworked, but he's also just not that good. He's never been that good. He's never been a late inning, high leverage guy for a full season before. He always kind of breaks down, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing with Garrett here. Still, I know he has options left. Could he be sent to the minors? I don't know. But if he is, it's probably going to be for a guy like Brandon Sproat. So there was news over the weekend that Sproat was scratched from his start on Sunday, and everybody thought he was getting the call-up. What it actually was is that he was moving to the bullpen. So for the rest of the season, the remainder of the season, Brandon Sproat will be pitching out of the bullpen in AAA, and I'm sure if he performs well there, he's going to get called up to the major leagues. But in his first bullpen appearance of the season in AAA, he got hit around a little bit. He gave up 7 runs in 3 2/3 innings out of the bullpen, 7 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 7 earned runs, like I said, and he was really bad. I don't see it as a concerning thing. It's his first appearance out of the bullpen. It's a different way of going about it, different warm-up, different, a starting pitcher has their routine, and now his routine is broken, and I think they told him the day before, or the day of, because he was scratched from the lineup, or scratched from his start the day of. That's when we found out about it, because the day before we heard Mendoza saying Brandon Sproat was going to stay on his track to start the next game, and he wasn't going to be called up. And then all of a sudden he was pitching out of the bullpen. So it probably screwed with his psyche a little bit, messed him up. He was prepared to start and then didn't start. I don't know. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means when you go 3 2/3 and give up 7 runs in AAA. Are you close to a major league call-up? I'm not sure. But honestly, is he any worse than Reed Garrett right now, or what Helsley's given you, or what Stanek gives you? I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't see how he could be worse than what those guys are giving you right now. Another pitching thing going on here is it was reported by Mike Puma that the organization has kind of shifted their thinking in the last week or so, and that Jonah Tong is being considered for a call-up this season. Now, that would be, a September call-up kind of thing. He would come up September 1st. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But in his last start in AAA, he's only had 2 starts in AAA, and he's yet to give up an earned run. He went 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts, no runs. To me, he seems like he's probably ready. But will they call him up? I don't know. I mean, if you look at his numbers and his advanced numbers, he's been maybe the best pitching prospect in the minor leagues this year. So do I think he'll be called up this year? I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50. And if he does, it's probably going to be in a long relief role or maybe an opener to a game, just to give you a couple innings to then bridge to Clay Holmes. I don't know. Maybe that's what they're thinking. I'm not sure. But listen, this is the guy that's your best prospect. You think Nolan McLean looks great. Jonah Tong is a better prospect than Nolan McLean. So if you can get these 2 guys both in the major leagues, both really, contributing at a high level, it would be great to see. And then if you add Sproat into that, maybe he comes up and pitches out of the bullpen, and maybe he looks okay. You have a lot to build off of there. I don't see this as... I've said before, I've come to the realization that this Mets team probably is not a championship team. They don't look like it. They don't have enough consistency. But calling up these kids, maybe bringing a little bit of excitement, maybe spark something in them, maybe makes them go on a run. I don't know, maybe that's wishful thinking, but it couldn't hurt, right? Even if you're calling them up just to see what you have, I don't think you're really going anywhere this season anyway. I think you still sneak into the playoffs because the Reds aren't any good, and they're not going to catch you. And as long as you play 500 or a little bit better ball over the last 30 or so games, they're probably getting in. So but I don't see them being a World Series favorite or winning a World Series. Just with the way they've played and their consistency, I don't see it happening. So getting these kids called up, see what you have, and maybe, best case scenario, they spark something and send you on a run. Worst case scenario, you see what you have and you know what you're going to need going into next year. Because if you have 3 guys ready to go into the rotation next year, you don't really have to worry about your starting rotation. Or maybe you don't have to go out there and sign those fringe guys who can hopefully make a roster, or sign an ace. Maybe you think you have one in Tong or McLean. I still hope they could go out and get an ace because I think you need that. But overall, they could just be looking and saying, let's see what we have in these guys. Maybe we can count on them for next year. That's worst case scenario. Now we talked about the pitching, but the hitting was important in this series as well. They scored 24 runs in the 3 games. Obviously, one of the games was 12 runs, and then one of the games was 9 runs, and the other one was 3, so kind of lopsided there. But they showed you different ways they could win. In game 1 of this series, they get 21 hits, go 8 for 18 with runners in scoring position, and they score 12 runs. Really nice overall team hitting performance. I think that was probably their best offensive performance of the year. And then in game 2, they had some trouble with runners in scoring position. They were only 1 for 10, but they hit 6 home runs and scored 9 runs. So obviously 2 big differences, right, between game 1 and game 2. Game 1 they scored 12 runs and I think had 1 home run. Game 2 they scored 9 and had 6 home runs. So they have different ways to beat you. They have guys who, in theory, should be good hitters with runners in scoring position. Career numbers are good with runners in scoring position. And then you have guys who should be able to mash. And that was game 1 and 2. And then in game 3, you saw what you've seen all season long, which was the Mets kind of going to sleep in a day game, getaway day. It seems to happen every single time. When it's a day game and they're leaving after to go home or go on the road, they never perform well. I don't know if it's a motivation or they're focusing on what they're getting on the plane. I have no clue, but it's been happening for a couple years now. The Mets just don't perform well in these games, especially offensively. Usually their pitching is fine and they just don't hit. And they were 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position in this game. They made some mistakes defensively. Mullins, I don't know why Taylor wasn't playing center field there, move Mullins to left. Does Taylor make that play in center late in the game? I don't know. It's probably a 50-50 shot, maybe a 40-60 shot. But he has a better chance of making that catch than Mullins does. When Taylor is in the game, he should be in center. Mullins should move over to left. It's just, that's how it should be. There's no reason that Taylor, who's the better defensive center fielder, should not be playing center field. If Mullins has an issue with it, maybe he says he doesn't want to play left, he's a center fielder, blah, blah, blah. You're not as good. You're just not. And you're not hitting well enough right now to be able to make those demands. So I don't really care what Mullins has to say. If he doesn't want to play left, then he can sit on the bench, and then let's just put Taylor out there every day, because defensively, he's much better than Mullins. Mullins is not even close to Taylor's level defensively. And you saw Taylor made a huge play. I don't remember what inning it was, but I know it was in yesterday's game. Comes out of nowhere and makes a flying catch in center field. Looked like it was heading for the gap, and I thought he had a 0% chance of getting to it, and he ended up supermaning and making a big catch. So Taylor should be playing center when he's in there. I don't care if it hurts Mullins' feelings. You're not good enough to make demands. If you look at offensively, kind of the stars or whatever you want to call them of the series, McNeil had a couple home runs. Nice series for McNeil, especially one really nice game. Marte went 4 for 8 with a home run, 2 RBIs, 2 stolen bases in the series, and I can't say enough about how good Marte has been this year. Over his last 30 games, he's got a 921 OPS, 4 home runs, 11 RBIs. I think he's hitting like 340 or 350 over those 30 games. Like, we didn't expect anything from Marte this year, and he's given great at-bats, great leadership. He obviously is making Juan Soto a little bit more comfortable. You could see that they're very close. They're always talking to each other in the dugout. They're always hanging out outside of the game. I think he's been a great veteran presence for this team. He's not the rah-rah guy. He's not firing anyone up, but he's just a good clubhouse guy who's going to get people involved and get people joking around, whatever. He's just a good guy to have, and he's performed on the field. I didn't think he would be. I thought he was going to be just basically a vibes guy this year, and he's turned out to be one of their best offensive players for most of the season. They're most consistent, at least. He gets his base hits. He's had a couple of big home runs. Even defensive the other night, making that huge throw to nail the guy out at home plate. Like, he doesn't even play defense anymore, and when he's in, he makes an impact. So, love what we've seen out of Marte. He had a nice series. Juan Soto had a pretty good series, quietly. 4 for 10 with a home run, 5 RBIs, and 6 walks in this series. So, he's going to get his walks. He's always going to walk. But he had 5 RBIs in 3 games. Really good overall series for Soto. But the big star of this series has to be Mark Vientos. Vientos went 5 for 14 with 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, and this guy's been on fire lately. And I was someone who was very critical of Mark Vientos. Thought they probably should have traded him at the deadline. Didn't think he was really deserving of any playing time. And he's proving me and everyone else who thought that wrong. In his last 7 games, he's 10 for 28 with 5 home runs, 11 RBIs. He's got like a 1350 OPS over his last 7 games. And it goes even further than that because over his last 30 games, he's hitting 288 with 6 home runs, 22 RBIs, and an 840 OPS. So after the terrible struggle early in the season, it seems as though he's getting his power back. He's starting to look like the Mark Vientos of last year. And if he's able to do that, and say we get Alvarez back and Beatty continues to hit the way he has been, this offense can be scary. This offense can be dangerous like we thought early in the season. Whether he continues to hit, whether Beatty continues to hit, whether Alvarez comes back, those are huge question marks, and we don't know if any of those things are going to happen. But if they do, in a perfect world, the Mets now have a great offense. And that's all we can ask for is a hope or a chance of that happening. McNeil's, hitting, he's kind of up and down, but he's consistent. He's consistent in being bad for a couple days and good for a couple days. He's had that kind of a season, but, there's been times this year where Jeff McNeil's the only guy hitting in that lineup. So McNeil hitting, Vientos, Alvarez, all those guys. The Mets have the makings of what can be a very good offense. I'm just hoping it didn't all start to click and come together too late, and now they're fighting really for the last playoff spot once again like they were last year. They could go on a run, make it exciting. Mark Vientos is obviously a huge key to that. Obviously, you can't get too excited about the Mets taking 2 out of 3 against the terrible Braves. The Braves have been bad all year, so you can't get too pumped about it, especially because they kind of messed up the vibes on Sunday by reverting back to their old ways. But now you have a chance to do something against the Phillies. The Mets have been very good against the Phillies this year. I think they're 4-2 against them. Obviously, they knocked them out of the playoffs last year. So in recent history, the Mets have kind of owned the Phillies. And now you're down by 7 games in the division. The Phillies come in 76-54 with a 7-game lead. And if you lose this series, you take your slim chance of winning the division now and basically make it no chance. If you go down by 8 games, 9 games, you're not coming back from that. I don't see the Phillies collapsing, and I don't see the Mets being consistent enough to take over or to go on a big run that they would need to overcome an 8 or 9 game lead. But let's say you take 2 out of 3, it's 6 games, you still have 4 games with them later on, you continue to play good baseball going forward, it remains a possibility. Now if you sweep them and make it a 4-game lead, then anything's possible. But if you win this series, kind of feel good about yourself, maybe it boosts you, maybe it changes the mentality and you think you have a better chance, and even if you don't win the division, if it just puts you on a run and you run away with that 3rd wildcard spot, or maybe even go into a higher one and feel good going into the playoffs, that could all start here. This is the biggest series of the year so far, until that 4-game series, hopefully, if it means something, in Philadelphia in a couple of weeks. But this is a huge test for the Mets to see if they're going to make a run and come back. This is where it has to start. You take 2 out of 3 in Atlanta against the Braves, and then you go home, you have the Phillies, you need 2 out of 3. You have to, minimum 2 out of 3. If they don't, I think this division is over, even though I think it's probably over already. 7 games with the Phillies, it's probably not going to happen. But they have a chance. And the pitching matchups in this series, Game 1, you have Senga versus Sanchez. Senga's going to be going on regular rest. That's why people thought Sproat was scratched from his start in Syracuse, because they thought he was going to make the start so that Senga could be pushed back a day. But Senga's going to go on regular rest. Hasn't always worked out well in the past. We know he doesn't like to go on regular rest. We'll see what happens. I don't expect much out of Senga in this game, and you're going up against Christopher Sanchez, who's probably been the Phillies' maybe best pitcher this year. He's got about a 2.5 ERA, a whip about 110. He's a guy who gets a lot of strikeouts, could be dominant at times, but the Mets have gotten to him in the past. So I don't think he's unhittable. He's not untouchable, and with the way the Mets' offense has been hitting lately, I think they could do damage against anyone right now. Game 2, you have Minaya against Luzardo. We obviously know what Manaya's been doing, not giving you much length, walking a lot of people, not getting deep into games, giving up runs, just hasn't looked like the Sean Manaea of the past. His velocity is definitely down. He's dealing with that loose body in his elbow. At this point, I don't have any faith that he's going to pitch well in this game. He's going up against Luzardo, who It's hot and cold. One day he could look like a great pitcher and dominate and go 7 innings and strike out 12. The next start, he could go 3 innings and give up 10 runs. You never know what you're getting out of him. He has all the greatest stuff you could imagine, but he doesn't always perform to that level. 4.1 ERA this year, 1.3 WHIP. He gives up a lot of base runners, walks, hits. He gives up base runners. You can get to him, and hopefully they do. The Mets have been hurt by him in the past, but they've also gotten to him in the past, and that's what he is. He's 50-50 whether he's going to be good or not. And then in Game 3, I hate to say this, but I think we actually have the pitching matchup in this because you have Nolan McLean going up against Taijuan Walker. The Mets have hit Taijuan Walker in the past, obviously a former Met. He's not having a terrible season. He's got a 3.4 ERA. He's been up and down. You can get to him. He's been good. He's been bad. But I like our chances in this game because McLean pitching at home, big game. He seems like the kind of guy who likes that type of spotlight. And I think Walker isn't the type of guy who has the mental ability to pitch in those big games. Because, and maybe, for the Phillies, it's not really a big game. They have a 7-game lead. They don't care, right? Maybe they do. Maybe they want to bury the Mets. But to the Mets, this matters. Because they have to win at least 2 of these games to even stay with a chance for the division. So if it comes down to that Game 3, say it's 1-1 coming into that third game, the Mets are going to be fighting for it, and I think McLean has, I'm guessing here because we've seen him for 2 starts, but he seems to have that type of mentality where he wants the ball in those big games, and he thrives in those situations. So we only have the advantage in one of the games, and it's probably the one where most people are the most nervous because it's McLean going up against the Phillies. I personally think he's going to pitch great. We'll see. Nobody knows what's going to happen until it happens. But yeah, like I said, I don't see the Mets making some type of big run here. I don't see the Phillies falling apart. But this series is the biggest series of the year so far, and might end up being the biggest series of the year. So excited for this one. Hopefully the Mets can keep the momentum going a little bit. Hopefully that Sunday loss didn't screw up their momentum, but who knows. Anyway, if you like this type of content, please subscribe, give me a like, comment what you think is going to happen this weekend. Let me know if you think the Mets have a chance in the division, if you think that they're just done and hoping for a wild card spot. But yeah, until next time, let's go Mets.